White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett this weekend warning that federal layoffs are on the way as government shutdown enters day 6. The Senate is expected to hold another critical vote tonight on 2 funding proposals, the Republicans' clean short-term bill and the counter-proposal from Democrats, which includes extending the Obamacare subsidies. Both bills need 60 votes to pass, but Democrats remain firmly opposed to the Republican-backed measure, which would extend government operations through November 20th. Joining me now is South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Your reaction to this standoff, and what is it going to take to get business open again in Washington?
Well, I think, unfortunately, the standoff is pretty status quo right now. Democrats don't seem to be moving, at least right now. They continue to dig their heels in on the shutdown. And just to remind your viewers, you know, Democrats have supported 13 prior clean continuing resolutions under this administration and the last. So to now change course doesn't make a lot of sense. But as Republicans have consistently highlighted, their priorities are America last. They continue to support the funding of illegal immigrant health care within the provisions of their proposal. And so don't pay the troops, but let's fund a spa at a hospital for illegal immigrants who aren't citizens of this country. That's where they're at. It's unfortunate, but I think the American people are starting to pay attention to what they're doing.
Well, I think so, too. But what is it going to take to get them moving? I mean, what is there a catalyst on the horizon that you see that's actually going to get them to say, OK, we've got to work with Republicans? Because even if you get this CR done and you have government funded until mid-November, then you're going to do it all again. November 21st, you'll have to do another continuing resolution, right?
Well, possibly so. We'll see. I mean, our appropriations work continues. 4 of our appropriations bills, I think, are through the House of Representatives right now. Another 8 are out of committee and ready for the floor. You know, so we'll see what ultimately happens. But the big thing is we've got to get through this initial phase right now in order to continue that work. Congress must get back to regular order. It's the smart way to budget when you go through these the traditional appropriations process. So let's get back to that. Let's get back to the basics. But for Democrats, there seems to be some movement, some fracturing. Obviously, 3 Senate Democrats have supported the continuing resolution. We hope that more will be on the way. But I'll tell you something, what will be interesting is when your constituents start to call your office and say, my VA is backed up. I can't get a passport, it's backed up. When you're not getting these government services that you expect, you're going to call your senator and you're going to give them an earful.
Yeah. All right. So far, you've had 2 Democrats and 1 independent who have voted with the Republicans. I spoke with John Thune yesterday, the majority leader, who said he needs 5 more senators to vote. He's hoping that happens tonight in this upcoming vote at 5:30. But he went through what the strategy is for Democrat leadership. Watch this.
Democrats who I think realize this is a losing strategy for them, and it really ends in a dead end, want to find an off-ramp here and are talking to Republicans. Right now their leadership is stuck because these left-wing special interest groups are so adamant in their desire to fight President Trump. It's sort of this blind Trump derangement syndrome. This is not giving him a victory. I mean, this is simply continuing to fund the government for the next 7 weeks so we can continue the appropriations process. It really is, it's ironic in a way that this is where the Democrats have decided to pick their fight, but I think their liberal left is insisting on it.
Is that all it is, Congressman? They just want to go against President Trump?
Oh, I think that's exactly what it is. This is the same product that they voted for back in March. Yeah. You know, to me, being big mad at the president is not a winning strategy. It just simply isn't. Here within their proposal, you know, they continue government funding, sure, but they fund illegal immigrant health care. They water down and eliminate our work requirements. It's the first work requirements we've had in quite some time on people who should not be on Medicaid to begin with, but they are. And so these are common sense things that 80% of the American people support. Why Democrats are just big mad is beyond any rational explanation, but that seems to be where they're at, and that's why they're kind of stuck in the mud and at their lowest polling levels in history.
Yeah, but Liz, it's not just funding government. You've also got California Governor Gavin Newsom suing the administration again over the deployment of 300 California National Guard personnel to Oregon. A federal judge blocked the order late last night, and Newsom went right on X, it's Twitter, and he writes his deployment isn't about crime, it's about power. He's using our military as political pawns to build up his own ego. What is this guy talking about?
Well, I think the Congressman is exactly right. Democrats' one playbook right now is I hate Donald Trump, and I'm going to oppose absolutely everything he does, including making our streets safer, which, by the way, is a pretty big priority for most Americans. So I think this is totally boneheaded, but I am worried, Maria, that the polling shows Americans think that Democrats are right in this shutdown battle, and Republicans are not getting their message out as aggressively as Democrats are. Schumer is on Twitter or X, on other platforms, every 30 seconds, as is Hakeem Jeffries, and I think they're wrong. But we need the Republicans to get more active, I think, in telling their story.
Well, I mean, Congressman, you know, it's also the judges. You know, a federal judge blocked the president's order to deploy Oregon's National Guard troops in Portland. Your reaction to the blocks that the president is finding when trying to affect change on crime across the country?
Well, I think it's unfortunate. I think litigation continues, right? Parts of this are on appeal. Parts of this, I think, are remanded back to the district court level. But unfortunately, what we've seen in Portland for years is really callous lawlessness, disregard for our federal agents, for our federal property. We've seen in the past Molotov cocktails being lobbed at courthouses. I think the president is rightly concerned about our assets in the Portland region, and under existing law, I think has a lot of authority to make sure that those are protected and that our law enforcement at the federal level can do their job. It's unfortunate that Gavin Newsom doesn't want safer streets. They seem to be, again, big mad at the president over everything. And so even something as simple and nonpartisan as safer streets seem to be a partisan rallying cry for the governor of California at this point. And it's sad because I think at the end of the day, the people who live there are affected the most.
And there was a dangerous encounter in Chicago involving federal agents after an ICE van was rammed and trapped by 10 vehicles in an area where anti-ICE protests have been growing for days now. The nation's largest police union is condemning the reports that local officers were told not to respond to this, calling the allegation shocking, a violation of basic duty. They write both the National Fraternal Order of Police and the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police believe that when an officer calls for assistance, you answer, no matter what. The Chicago Police Department is disputing the reports, Congressman, but you introduced legislation condemning attacks on ICE officers and facilities, right?
Well, I did, and what we've seen is pretty crazy criticism of ICE officials by members of Congress. And so, you know, I think Congress should speak very clearly when it comes to this, that if you're an ICE officer, you're doing your job, we support you. And for Democrats who have been consistently anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement, let them now change course. Let them now speak and say, you know what, we're not going to support this violence against the brave men and women who make up our ICE. Who are engaged in the lawful protection of the American citizens and doing their job. Change course now. This resolution gives them that opportunity. We hope that they take it.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work, certainly. Good to see you. Thank you. Russell Fry joining us this morning.